Hi, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the April 12th Finance Committee meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Member Chaplin?
Here.
Member Chavez? Here. Member Covert? Member Desart? Here. Member DeCiani? Member Eckhoff? Member Garcia? Member Hart? Member Krajewski? Member LaPlante? Member Ozog? Member Potalski? Member Renahan? Member Rutledge? Member Schwarze? Member Selman? Member Tornatore? And Member Zay.
Great, we have a quorum. And I'm advised we have no public comment, correct? Okay. With that, we move on to chairman remarks. I would like to thank Assistant State's Attorney Barb Reynolds for filling in for Connor this morning. And also on today's agenda, you will find a recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to OpenGov Inc. for budgeting and planning software for the finance department. The OpenGov purchase will provide for automated reporting and a dashboard that will make the county's financial information more accessible and easily understood. It's not only a tool for the finance staff, but what's really great about it is that the county board members, department staff, and even the public will have access to this database. So the recommendation fits nicely into our ACT initiative. This purchase will improve efficiency, reduce duplication, and encourage resource sharing across county government and agencies. The OpenGov purchase supports the goals of the ACT initiative with its automated reporting and dashboard that will make the county's financial information more accessible. So I'd really like to thank our finance department staff for bringing this initiative forward and all our work on this. And with that, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 22nd, 22 finance meeting? I have a motion by member Zay and a second by member Chavez. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. We move on to item number 6, budget transfers. Can I have a motion on FIR 018422, budget transfers from 4/12/22 from various companies and accounting units? I have a motion by member Desart, a second by member Rutledge. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We move on to procurement requisitions. We have finance. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on change order for Pace Suburban Bus Service, a decrease in closeout.
I have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Salmon. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on another change order for Midland Paper, a decrease in the closeout.
I have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on 2022-38, which is a recommendation for the approval of a contract with the Physicians and Immediate Care Chicago PLLC to provide our health-related services to include drug screening.
I have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FICO 0014-22, which is a recommendation for approval of an amendment to resolution FIP 0401-21 for a change order amending the purchase order 5488-0001 for a contract issued to Hart InterCivic for the voting equipment. Contract not to exceed $7,385,720.27. This change order is $111,704, 1.54 increase.
I have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Schwarze, and I see member Pochowski and member Zay seeking, having some questions. Member Pochowski, go ahead, please.
Is this for a scanner? It looks like this purchase for a scanner. I can't believe a scanner wasn't part of the initial purchase. I was just curious.
We have Adam Johnson coming up. Thank you, Adam.
So this change order addresses a component for the system called the auto ballot kit. They're the little hand scanners that take the tickets and print up the ballots. So essentially the way the main voting system is designed, all the voters would be checking in with that ticket and scan. But the ADA compliant component in the default setting, you actually have to go up and have the election judge hand enter a code to bring the ballot up. And so once our staff got the system in hand and started designing the procedures, they decided that it would be better to have uniformity, that the ADA voters also have that same scanning the ticket system, rather than having a separate procedure that both, election judges have to be trained on, and then has a slightly different voting experience for the ADA compliant voter. So this is ordering essentially additional of those hand scanners so they can be used to have a uniform check-in
And
process.
both systems are consistent with each other and
They are.
compatible, and
They are.
we don't have any issue with the two scanners or.
No, it was just once we got the system in-house, the staff decided that it would be better to, adopt that procedure for the ADA voters as well.
Thank you, Member Pachowski. Member Zay?
That's my question. This is a second change order. Do you foresee any more change orders on this?
Not at the
Partner
moment,
seven.
no, not at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Zay. Any other, thank you, Adam. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And last, I have a motion for FIP 0134-22, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to OpenGov Inc. for the budgeting and planning software for our period April 18, 2022 through April 17, 2027 for the Finance Department. Contract not to exceed $1,212,109.38, sole source and partial ARPA funded.
Okay, we have a motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? Member Zay and then Member Krajewski.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I know we got this late yesterday. Can we get some more explanation? Because I thought we spent millions of dollars on the ERP system that was going to help our budgeting and all of that. And I didn't know our budgeting was that bad that we needed to go out and spend $1.2 million on a new system, which is a 5-year, but binds further boards. I mean, it just seems, and I don't understand how this can be a sole source item.
So
Thanks, Jeff. Go ahead.
Sure. To answer your first question, we do struggle with the Infor product as far as reporting. We don't have dashboards. We are what I would call Excel driven, spreadsheet driven. We don't have a link to our websites. We don't have a link to department head desktops for dashboards. This provides us with a digital budget book. So that big 500-page book would eventually go away. So it just really increases our reporting for budgetary purposes. Next year, I envision us doing this using OpenGov to produce our budget, not this year, but in future years. It allows us to modify our chart of accounts, which we don't have to do an Infor. It expands our ARPA reporting, more charts and graphs. It's just much more transparent. It gets us off of spreadsheets. It gets the public more involved because, again, it links to our website. As far as sole source, this is a software program, cloud-based program that is patented. And we looked into that with a consultation from our state's attorney on sole source. The patent allows us to really modify the chart of accounts more so than any other program. Again, it's expanded reporting. So, for example, we'll talk about townships and park districts as they're related to ARPA. You'll be able to see one line item on how much we've spent for that total program, but we really can't break down ARPA into these separate projects and report on that. So it's, that's kind of the overview on what the software is and why we're deeming it sole source, to answer your questions.
There's no other companies that do any kind of budgeting software that would.
Not the digital budget book and not the chart of accounts that is patented for the expansion of the reporting.
So for the digital budget book and more convenience and transparency, it's worth $1.2 million.
Well, there's a kind of a caveat to that. We are going to retire our Oracle software program with this if it's approved, and that will save $90,000 each year. So over 5 years, that's $450,000 that's saved to the general fund. So there is a net to that. What you're seeing is the gross amount, but once Oracle is retired, there's a savings on that also.
Thank you. We have Member Krajewski, Member Pachowski, Member Rutledge, and then Member Chavez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for bringing this up here quickly to us, Jeff. I know I've had, as Vice Chair of Finance, numerous conversations with you, but I think this is going to be an excellent tool. It's going to be used. Unfortunately, this ERP system we had. And I don't know if we're gonna have a report coming to us. Is that coming up?
Well, we have a committee right now
No,
that's
I
evaluating.
mean, we had Kinsey come in here and do a big long, it took them a friggin' year, but I know that that's probably, we could spend 2 hours and talk about that ERP system, but the old finance director, too, removed from you, really liked that system, brought it in and then retired. The next finance director that came in didn't really embrace that system. And so we have this, whatever we spent for that system, unbeknownst to me, I left technology 7 years ago, that people aren't trained on it. Modules haven't been implemented. We are still getting for budgeting Excel spreadsheets.
Right.
You know, it's been 7 years. I keep asking. Now I know the answer why. Because we have a system that nobody knows how to use, or many people don't, and modules haven't been inputted. Procurement never inputted it. So
Right.
there's so much hand stuff done, spreadsheets done. So I think, you know, you have a control of this and understanding of it. We're gonna move forward. This budgeting system is gonna be great. We're gonna finally not get Excel spreadsheets coming to us every department that comes in front of us. So I'm glad you're able to bring this forward quickly, because the sooner we implement this, the better it's gonna be for all you guys in the back to
Right.
be able to do stuff much more efficiently and not have to spend so much time with spreadsheets, doing things by hand, inputting. And I can't believe that fixed asset module was never implemented.
Right.
I mean, you guys are.
It's all
how many of these
spreadsheet driven.
laptops that we have, we
Right.
have thousands of these things that you're putting in by hand. I mean, so thank you for bringing this forward quickly. I know I'm pushing you to get it up to us. But I'm full support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Pachowski?
I thought we were going away from 5-year contracts. I mean, every time we have an issue of technology, it seems 2 or 3 years or something new anyway. And I thought in prior years, we had raised that issue. And I thought it was something over 3 years, we had to come in and justify why it was 5 years. I mean, it just seems to me with technology, 2 years from now, it'll be obsolete. And I thought we had a policy, and I'm not sure if Nick or anybody remembers, that if it was over a 3-year contract, then we had to come in and justify why we're going over 3 years, if that still applies.
I don't recall a 5-year contract or a 5-year policy on that, but at a program like this, a financial reporting program, you put a lot of time up front. And the key to these programs are to make sure that it's implemented correctly and that it follows a lot of our internal procedures for finance and countywide. Once it's set up correctly and the software vendor continually upgrades it and does the modifications, which we're confident, and we've talked through that with OpenGov, there should be no problem keeping this for at least 5 years. Every 3 years to do a financial reporting program. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, one of the main reasons why we wanted to do this for 5 years is because ARPA. This project, a big piece of why we're doing this is to help with our ARPA reporting. The ARPA reporting, it's a huge amount of money and it really requires custom reporting. The nice thing about the OpenGov solution is it has modules that are designed specifically for ARPA, and ARPA is only going to be with us for 5 years. And so by there's a large amount of this project that we're envisioning being funded by ARPA, and so we could so that we can maximize our ARPA drawdown. We set the term at 5 years. So as long as we're able to encumber the contract in this year, we'll be able to pay for 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26. And since like 50% of the expenses in the out years are going to be charged off to ARPA, that's one of the reasons why we structured it, to be able to pull down and really fully use those funds for this purpose, since it's going to be key to what we're doing over the next 5 years. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to add that part of it.
Okay. Thank you, Member Pachowski. We have Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say, for one, as an artist, I've been using sole source software programs, and there's always a couple of other markets or a couple other vendors that will offer a less than at a lot lower cost, but it never is worthwhile.
Right.
So I wholeheartedly support this effort, and And I think the taxpayers deserve this kind of reporting. So thank you, Jeff.
And we also did demonstrations with other vendors and deemed that they couldn't do some of the things that OpenGov did.
Yeah, thank you, Member Rutledge. Member Chavez.
Thank you, Chair Chaplin. I just want to say thank you for bringing this forward. I think it's past time that we have a really easy way for board members, for constituents to link to our website, to have this information at a glance. I think this moves DuPage County into the 21st century. I think it moves us away from having staff input all that information by hand into Excel spreadsheets. A lot of what I'm saying has been said, but I'm in full support of this, and I really think it's a great way for our constituents to have this at a glance. So I thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Member Chavez. Member Garcia.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you again also for bringing this up. One question I had, because I've gone through software changes in prior jobs, is the training included in this for the employees? Because that seems to be like, there'll be one quick training and then you've got to figure out the modules on your own. So I want to make sure that we're going to have continual training so all the modules can be utilized.
Yeah. It's unlimited training throughout the entire county for about 110,000 in the first year. The maintenance in prior years includes additional training. And the nice thing is we could have 2,000 employees on this software and we'll pay one fee for licenses, whereas other software companies charge a per license. So it's unlimited licenses and training.
Perfect. And so that's included in this?
Yes,
this price?
over the 5 years.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Member Garcia. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you, Mary Catherine. Can all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, Member Krajewski. We move on to Health and Human Services, Member Renahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of HHSP 012722 contract purchase order to Optimum Management Resources for technical assistance and consultation for the DuPage County Homeless Continuum of Care, April 1st to December 31st, 2022, not to exceed $32,000.
I have a motion by Member Renahan, a second by Member Schwarzy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
Thank you. I move to combine items 7B, 2, 3, and 4. These are all supplemental staffing for the care center. Are all dated April 13th, 2022 through April 12th, 2023, and they're all partial ARPA funded.
I have a motion by Member Renahan, a second by Member Schwarzy to combine items 2, 3, and 4 under Health and Human Services.
All right, thank you. I move approval.
All in favor?
Aye, sorry.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Go ahead, Member Renahan.
Okay, thank you. I move approval of HHSP 012822, contract purchase order to Nova Staff Healthcare Services for supplemental staffing not to exceed 914,000. HHSP 012922, Maximum Healthcare Services, DBA Maximum Staffing Solutions, also supplemental staffing not to exceed 600,000. And HHSP 013022, Bright Star Care of Central DuPage Wheaton, also supplemental staffing not to exceed 394,000.
A motion by Member Renahan, a second by Member Schwarzy. I have questions from, well, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion, oh, wait, I'm sorry. Let me take questions. Oh, yeah. No.
Move to reconsider.
Move to reconsider, second to reconsider. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We'll reconsider the motion. So, got to make another motion. Yeah, can I have a motion on that? Member Renahan, want to move on that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Member Chowski, second by Member Ozog. Discussion. Member Chowski.
Has it been easier for us to get staff with our collective bargaining agreement? Or it looks like the numbers are down. I was just curious with our collective bargaining agreement at the care center, if we're still having a situation with numbers that we did before for these types of positions.
Is anybody here from? Janelle, are you there?
This is Anita. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Janelle's not here for just right now, but in response to the question, we are still having job fairs. We did our last job fair earlier this month. We are still having some difficulty hiring, so we continue to work through that process.
Okay, thank you. Any other question or comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Renahan.
Thank you. I move approval of HHSP 013122, a contract with Echo Lab for laundry chemicals for the care center, April 24th, 2022 through April 23, 2023, not to exceed 31,000.
I have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member Schwarzy. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, member Renahan. We move on to digital public safety and member Renahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of JPSP 0116-22, a contract with Peter M. King of King Holloway LLC for services as a conflict attorney assigned to juvenile cases for the court, May 1st, 2022 through April 30th, 2023, not to exceed 42,000.
I have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
Move approval of JPSP 0117-22, a contract to Norex Group, Inc. to provide 190 new stainless steel tables for detainees within the jail, April 12, 2022 through April 11, 2023, not to exceed $328,710.51. And this is an ARPA item for the sheriff.
Motion by member Renahan, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Member Renahan.
Thank you. Move approval of JPSP 0118-22, renewal contract purchase order to HOV Services to provide professional consultation and technical assistance with application systems. This is for the circuit court clerk, June 1st, 2022 through May 31st, 2023, not to exceed $723,699.
I have a motion by member Renahan. Is there a second? Oh, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you so much, member Renahan. With that, we move on to Public Works. Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move for approval of change order PWCO 0396A21, amendment to resolution PWCO 039621, issued to Superior Industrial Equipment Company due to needed additional funds for the nitro pump impeller replacement at the Woodridge Green Valley Treatment Facility for Public Works to increase the contract in the amount of $35,268.77, taking the original contract amount of $50,000 and resulting in an amended contract total not to exceed $85,268.77, an increase of 70.54%.
I have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of FMP 011422, recommendation for the approval of a contract to A&P Grease Trappers for sanitary grease trap and storm basin pumping, jetting, and cleaning as needed for the county campus for facilities management for the period April 14th, 2022 through April 13th, 2023, for a total contract amount not to exceed $124,060 per lowest responsible bid. First option to renew.
Have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of FMP 011922, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Curry Motors Frankfurt for the purchase of one 2022 Ford Transit 250 cargo high roof van and two 2022 Ford Transit 250 cargo low roof van replacement vehicles for facilities management for a total contract amount not to exceed $103,576, pricing in compliance with Joint Purchasing Act.
I have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of FMP 012022, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Weatherproofing Technologies for the roof restoration work at the JTK Administration Building for facilities management for the period April 13th, 2022 through November 30th, 2022, for a total contract amount not to exceed $924,259.15, contract pursuant to the Intergovernmental Cooperation Act.
I have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? Member Desart.
Thank you. I just want to let the students in the audience know that a lot of our discussion actually happens in committee, so that's why we don't discuss it at the board floor. So a lot of our questions have been answered already in committee settings. But I just wanted to let everybody know that this board has an appetite to go green. And during committee, we did discuss that any roof restoration will have the ability, correct, Nick, to mount solar panels. So that was discussed, and I think that's a great way to have this county move to.
Agreed.
Going
Yes.
forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
To moving forward. Yes. Thank you, Member Desart. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozog?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for approval of FMP 012122, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Hill Mechanical Corporation for the replacement of air handling units 3, 4, and 5 at the Care Center for facilities management for the period April 13th, 2022 through June 30th, 2023 for a total contract amount not to exceed $702,134.40 per lowest responsible bid.
I have a motion by Member Ozog, a second by Member Desart. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozog?
Thank you. I move for approval of PWP 012622, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Aldridge Electric for the electrical infrastructure improvement project for the Woodridge and Knollwood wastewater treatment facilities for the period April 12th, 2022 through June 30th, 2025 for Public Works for a contract total amount not to exceed $21,243,280.30.
I have a motion by Member Ozog, a second by Member Desart. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozog?
Thank you. I move for approval of PWR 017422, DuPage River Salt Creek Work Group membership dues for 2022 to 2025 are in the total amount of $808,567 to be cost shared in the amount of $111,974 to be paid by Stormwater Management and $696,593 to be paid by Public Works.
I have a motion by Member Ozog, a second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Member Ozog. We move on to Stormwater with Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On this first item, just before we go, this is an amendment to a contract for our pipe replacement project. Once we turned on the pumps out there to dewater the quarry, we had 3 seals break on out of the 4 pumps. So it was kind of an emergency situation. So while this contractor was there, they're able to do the work, so we don't have to go out and rebid it and get it done, because obviously dewatering the quarry is pretty big right now as we come into the spring. So just want to give you a heads up on that one. With that, I move on SMCO 1222 SMP 88A22 amendment to resolution SMP 8822 issued to AMS Mechanical Systems for Elmhurst Quarry Pipe Replacement Project to add line items and decrease the amount of the contract by $150,256.07, an increase of 13.62%.
I have a motion by Member Zay, a second by Member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMCO 1322, SMP 70A19, amendment to resolution SMP 7819 issued to Comcast Holdings to extend the Comcast business to provide secure data to stormwater remote control facilities in the amount of $63,000.
I have a motion by Member Zay, a second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMP 12222, approval of a contract issued to V3 companies to provide professional native vegetation services in the amount of $65,000 final renewal.
I have a motion by Member Zay, a second by Member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMP 12322, approval of contract issued to Cardinal Inc. to provide professional native vegetation services in the amount of $65,000 final renewal.
I have a motion by Member Zay, a second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMP 12422, approval of a contract issued to Hampton, Mazzini and Renwick to provide professional native vegetation management services for amount of $65,000 final renewal.
I have a motion by Member Zay, a second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMP 12522, recommendation on contract purchase order to Earthworks Land Inc. Improvement to furnish equipment, labor, material, tools, supervisor necessary for construction of the Country Club Highlands Drainage Improvement Project in the amount of $654,005.25 per lowest responsible bid.
I have a motion by member Zay, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member
Thank you,
Zay.
Madam Chair.
We move on to technology. Member Selman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on TEP 132-22, a recommendation for the approval of a contract to Cdwg for additional storage. This is a total of $38,784.34 bought via the Governmental Joint Purchasing Act.
I have a motion by member Selman, a second by member Chavez. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Selman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on TEP 133-22, a recommendation for the approval of a contract to Alchemy Technology Group for single sign-on and multi-factor licensing. This contract covers April 30th, 2022 through April 29th, 2025 for a total of $267,428.70, and this is an ARPA item.
I have a motion by member Selman, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Selman. We move on to transportation. Member Pachowski.
You know, I'm gonna go there later, okay? All right. Initially, I would move to approve change order, which is amendment to resolution DTP 002521, issued to Petroleum Traders Corporation, Inc. to furnish and deliver gas and diesel fuel as needed for the Department of Transportation Public Works, increasing the funding in amount of $125,000, resulting in amended contract, total amount of $1,400,000, increase of 9.8%.
I have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member
Thank you.
Pachowski.
Move to approve amendment to DTR 001A20, amendment to resolution between the County of DuPage and Illinois Department of Transportation for improvements at the intersection of Belmont and Finley Road for the correction of a project section number.
I have a motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member
I
Pachowski.
would move to combine agenda items 3 through 11, which are all approvals of contracts.
Okay, I have a motion to approve items 3 through 11. A motion by member Pachowski, a second by member Desart. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Pachowski, please proceed.
I would move to approve DTP 0106-22, recommendation for approval of contract to Vulcan Construction Materials LLC to furnish and deliver coarse and fine aggregates as needed for the Department of Transportation, $30,000, Public Works, $50,000, Facilities Maintenance, $25,000 for a period of April 14th, 22 to March 31st, 2023, a contract not to exceed $105,000, which is lowest bid. Move to approve DTP 0107-22, recommendation for approval of contract to Ozinga Ready Mix Concrete to furnish and deliver Portland cement concrete as needed for Division of Transportation, $50,000, Public Works, $30,000, Facilities Maintenance, $25,000 for a total contract not to exceed $105,000, lowest responsible bid. Move to approve DTP 010822, recommendation approval contract to Duquesne Asphalt Company, furnished by Tumas Paving Materials for the Central Region as needed for Department of Transportation for a total contract not to exceed $110,000. Move to approve DTP 0109-22, recommendation for approval contract Pota Construction to furnish and deliver Dumas Paving Materials for the Western Region as needed for the Department of Transportation and Facilities Maintenance for a contract not to exceed $50,000. Move to approve DTP 0110-22, recommendation approval contract BLA Inc. for professional construction engineering services for improvements along 75th Street from Millbrook to Green Road for a contract not to exceed $489,433.33. Move to approve DTP 0111-22, recommendation for approval contract to Bowman Consulting Group Limited for various construction engineering services, various improvements for a contract not to exceed $400,000. Motion to approve DTP 0112-22, recommendation approval contract to STV Incorporated to provide professional construction engineering services improvements along 87th at Woodward Avenue for a contract not to exceed $675,937.50. Move to approve DTP 0113-22, recommendation approval contract Quandel Consultants Inc. to provide professional bridge inspectional services upon request for contract not to exceed $150,000. And finally, motion to approve DTP 0115-22, motion for approval of contract to K5 Construction Corporation furnishing Dumas paving materials for the Southwest region as needed for a total contract not to exceed $135,000, lowest responsible bid.
I have a motion by Member Pachowski, a second by Member Desart. Any discussion on any of these? Member Desart?
Yeah, I just wanted to say and congratulate Chairman Pachowski that, he mentioned this during committee meeting, but we voted to increase the gas tax last year and put the money toward roads and bridges and to keep our roads and bridges in good repair in DuPage County. And you can see by all of these contracts that we are doing just that. So bravo to Chris Schneider, bravo to Chairman Pachowski.
Well, it's DuPage County doing projects, and I think the Transportation Committee, and the board should be approved, because we knew we had to upgrade our transportation system, and we're seeing that with all these engineering contracts today. So it's a win-win. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you both for your comments. Any other discussion?
I'm just going to second that comment and congratulate.
Yes, it's great, very great work by everyone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Pachowski, you're not done yet. Please.
I'm going to
please
move
continue.
to combine items 12 through 24, which are all mowing agreements. I wanted to bring these at one time so we could address that issue at one occasion. So move to combine 12 through 24.
I have a motion and by Member Pachowski, a second by Member Desart to combine items 12 through 24. Please proceed, and then we'll get to questions.
All right,
Yeah, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Pachowski.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move to approve DTR 0158, intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and Addison Township Highway Department for mowing along county roads and rights of way for an estimated county cost of $28,735.97 for 4 years. Motion to approve DTR 0159-22, resolution for an integral agreement between the County of DuPage and Bloomingdale Township Road Construction for mowing along county roads and right of ways for a contract cost of $22,789.78. Motion to approve DTR 0160-22, an integral agreement between the County of DuPage and Village of Carroll Stream for mowing along county roads and right of way for an estimated county cost of $30,536.41. Motion to approve DTR 0161-22, an integral agreement between the County of DuPage and City of Darien for mowing along county roads and rights of way for an estimated county cost of $48,635.57. Move to approve DTR 0162-22, intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and Village of Plumdale Heights for mowing along county roads and rights of way for an estimated cost of $27,172.43. Move to approve DTR 0163-22, integral agreement between the County of DuPage and Village of Hanover Park for mowing along county roads and rights of way for an estimated county cost of $20,030.01. Move to approve DTR 0164-22, an integral agreement between the County of DuPage and City of Naperville for mowing along county roads and rights of way for an estimated county cost of $41,493.15. Move to approve DTR 0165-22, an integral agreement between County of DuPage and Naperville Township Road District for mowing along county roads and rights of ways for a cost of $154,387.73. Move to approve DTR 0166-22, an integral agreement between the County of DuPage and Village of Oak Brook for mowing along county roads and rights of ways for an estimated county cost of $8,469.29. Move to approve DTR 0167-22, an integral agreement between the County of DuPage and City of Wheaton for mowing along county roads and rights of ways for an estimated cost of $2,309.89. Move to approve DTR 10168-22, an integral agreement between the County of DuPage and Village of Willowbrook for mowing along county roads and rights of way for an estimated county cost of $27,752.95. Move to approve DTR 0169-22, an integral agreement to County of DuPage and Winfield Township Highway Department for mowing along county roads and rights of ways for an estimated county cost of $53,077.56. And finally, move to approve DTR 0170-22, integral agreement between the County of DuPage and Village of Woodward for mowing along county roads and rights of ways for an estimated county cost of $34,717.81. These are all 4-year contracts.
I have a motion by Member Pachowski, a second by Member Desart. Discussion, Member Rutledge, and then Member Garcia.
Thank you, Chair Chaplin. I have so many questions about these expenditures. I was a new county board member 3 years ago when we voted on this, and I remember exactly the amount of money that we voted on at that time, because at that same meeting, we got one of those giant checks from Commonwealth Edison that ironically was the same amount of rebate for us doing good things for our environment, that we gave right back with the money that we spend mowing turf. As environmental chair, I think this is money terribly spent on behalf of our taxpayers. So I do have some questions about this that I hope I can get some answers for at the county board meeting. My first question is, there are only 3 townships that are applying for this money. What about the other 6 townships? Are there no county roads in those townships that need that maintenance? Hold on, Chair, because
I'm just going to say
others.
Chris Schneider might be, yeah, Chris is here to answer. So we go ahead and ask and then he
Great.
can answer.
Right,
So,
and thank you, Chris, for taking my call yesterday because we did have a long discussion about this. At that time, the amount of money that we approved was $200,000. So this is more than twice over from that amount. So my question is, there are, how many municipalities are doing this without funding from the county? Because I know Wayne Township is one of those that they're like, nope, we're good. We're going to take care of this. They are also putting natives in bioswales and doing some native planting. So I understand that people like to see that neat turf, but I think as leaders on the environment, we need to start educating people why from a CO2 emissions from lawnmowers. Thank you for approving, all of you, the electric mowers that we recently purchased. I know that we don't do herbicides on those rights of way, but I think that a lot of people go, oh, we've got to fertilize and, put all of those chemicals that run off, killing fish. I mean, for me, there's just so many reasons that we need to educate people why an expansive turf, no support for pollinators. So if you could give me those numbers for the county board, I'd really like to know, how many municipalities are doing this without support from the county already? Thank you.
Start with question 1. So.
Okay.
Over? Perfect. Okay. So the first thing is with regard to the ComEd energy grant we got for our conversion of signals to LED, that was $200,000. The last contract for this mowing was actually $422,000. I'm not saying that's any better than the 200, but in perspective, it was $422,000 3 years ago when we did this contract. All the 13 contracts added up. This year, it's $500,000. That reflects 2 things. Number one, an increase in labor, equipment, and fuel charges per acre. So instead of $50 per acre, we now pay $51.50. The other item is that the number of cycles of mowing that the municipalities like to see, much more than the county can provide. We're providing cycles 3 to 4 weeks to get through what we mow. They're more on an every other week or every week. So we recognize that many of them were contracting and losing money because they wanted to keep their community, their gateways, a little bit better, more consistent with how they ask their residents to maintain. So we increased the number of cycles from 20 per year that we pay to 23. So that accounts for about the $75,000 increase between the last 3-year contract and this 4-year contract. With regard to who we contract with, a lot of them are strategic. So where it makes sense, where for us to drive 25 miles to do a section of road where we can partner with a municipality or a township, we'd rather do that, partner with them, okay, than us driving just to go mow, then drive someplace else. So on the environment side, you talk about these contracts, the cost, there's also a benefit on the environment side because we're not driving all over the county trying to mow these. So we have reduced our fuel charges and our impact, our footprint on the environment by contracting with those municipalities, townships that are literally right out their back door. So the decision on who we partner with is really based on where the county highways are and the concentrations where it makes sense for them to do it. They're mowing their parks and their recreational areas, so it's easy for them to jump on a county highway and mow it. So we solicit them. We've dropped sections of road where it made sense. So we're always looking for partners. We're at a sweet spot right now. We talked yesterday, we have 760 acres. What does that mean? That's 585 football fields. So think about mowing that every week. I can't even mow my little 1/4 acre lot, in a week. So what we have is about 45% is mowed by county forces and about 55% are mowed by our municipal partners. They stay on a more frequent cycle than we do. Most municipalities have a requirement 8 to 6 inches or lower. When we were mowing much more, we were getting not cited, but we were being called and reminded that we have a forest in our parkways. And so I think we've had a successful partnership. And I think if you look at the totality of our carbon footprint, if you will, and what we mow versus what we don't drive to go mow, I think that's beneficial to the county.
If I could respond to that. I would like to see some kind of requirement to these funds that they start to limit or start to cut down the amount of turf that we talked about Naperville's 75th Street, they have 200 feet of frontage on those roads. I just think that there's a lot better use for, I'll even give you, the 15 feet of turf just off of the road, but for that other 185 feet of turf, why can't we see more native plantings and those kind of things? So I'd like to see this money tied to the requirement that we start to limit that amount of turf and that we use some of that money to educate constituents of why we're putting native plantings there. They're just, I'm sorry, I'm just flat.
Well,
I'm sorry, I just wanted to mention, I think this is a savings to the county with a consolidation. Do you agree?
In terms of, I think it gets back to, we cannot do it. If we're not partnering, we can't do it with our current forces. If we're not partnering with our municipalities, we're hiring out. We tried one year to contract out, failed miserably.
Yes, it did.
Okay, because all these contractors work for other entities, and when it rains, they don't mow, and when it dries out, they couldn't keep up with us. So we had a bad experience with going out and contracting. Working with our municipal partners has proven to be very effective to accomplish this of maintaining our parkways.
okay, Member Rutledge, do you have any other questions?
No, I'll let others chime in.
Okay, thank you. So next I have Member Garcia, then I have Member Zay, Member Schwarzy, Member Chavez, and Member Renahan. So Member Garcia.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here. I didn't get a chance to talk to you, but I did talk to Sarah Hunn from the Stormwater yesterday. And so I'm trying to get, and I know that there are some issues with trying to get some of the natives in there due to their height. It becomes a visibility challenge. We also don't want staff or any of the municipal staff out in the medians having to weed or anything like that, because that gets danger for that. We also don't want wildlife getting drawn to the medians because, that could cause traffic accidents. So I know there are some issues with that, but on the other hand, I'm definitely with Member Rutledge in terms of trying to go forward on where do we do that. So that, to me, it means like any kind of future roadways that are planned in the future, if we could get some kind of wording in our intergovernmental agreements that says, future roadways, we would love to do this with you, but only if there are some sustainable kind of things coming down the road, whether it be a bioswale or some kind of prairie plants at that. I don't know if there's some wording we can do in our intergovernmental that says, well, we want you to do this work for us, but we kind of have some restrictions also. And I don't know if we can do that or not. And also with the electric, because I know we're saving the gas from driving there. But that I'd also like to save the gas from mowing there. So I don't know if there's any kind of way to actually, I don't know, any other way to get them to use more electric vehicles or solar vehicles or something that to cut the grass. So
Right. So with regard to the parkways, so those are county parkways. So what's there, we're just asking somebody else to assist us with maintaining those parkways. So it really falls on the Division of Transportation, the board, if, what we put out there. Historically, we have done what's been kind of the standard in a suburban urban area, which has been basically sod or a seed blanket, depending on the area. So if it is something that we want to look at in the future, we can. I know we've identified certain county highways Fabian Parkway is a great example in District 6, where it'd be a great location where we can look at doing something that really is reflective of the development of the business park there, which is natives and more natural. And that's a great opportunity. We got that program to reconstruct it. And that is a project where right from the get-go, we spend the dollars up front and we landscape it or restore it differently than we might County Farm Road right out here in front of the campus, for example. And so I think it gets down to the vision of transportation. I think it gets down to when we do projects, working with our municipalities to identify, is there something we can do different in the parkways that's more sustainable, requires less maintenance.
Thank you, Member Garcia. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, a lot of these contracts are with villages, municipalities who have codes and ordinances, just like anybody's personal lawn. So if you let your grass grow and, you know, it's 12 inches high, you're gonna get that knock from your local code enforcement officer is gonna go, hey, cut your grass. And I think that's what we're seeing. And that's what we had problems with years ago when we tried to go out and have other vendors do this, because they couldn't keep up to what those local municipalities wanted at that point. So we're just following their codes and ordinances. Like you said, we try to do ours and cut it to, you know, they want to cut every week or every other week. We just don't have the capability to do that. So they're doing that for us. I mean, when you talk about parkways, it's also safety, line of sight. I mean, you want to be able to see over these things. And I understand about using native plants. And I think transportation and stormwater, when we do projects, we look at using native plants when it's appropriate. And we do, that's our first option. But in something like this for mowing right of ways right now, that's kind of, our hands are tied. You know, I know my village where I live in Carroll Stream, they tried doing a patch of native growings out there. And I don't know, remember Schwartz, you remember how well that went over, because that disappeared and turf grass went back down. So, I mean, it's coming. It's nice that we try to educate people, but I mean, at this point, right of ways, line of sight, safety, and when, you know, when it's appropriate, we do try to go native plants when we can.
Yeah, we work with stormwater, BMPs, best management practices, and ways to, you know, improve the quality of the runoff and different things like that. So again, we are looking at those as part of the permitting process, and where we can implement those successfully, we work closely with stormwater, you know, on that.
Okay, thank you, Member Zay. Member Puchowski, did you have any other questions? I have you on my list here.
We have experts that looked at the vegetation that we can do. So we already have people we've engaged, and that's something that's ongoing. This isn't the first time we're discussing this. I just think it was a great idea for consolidation. We didn't have a good experience when we hired our own people. And yes, we have experts that look at what we can put there, and we are very, you know, workable with putting something in there that's more sustainable. So yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Puchowski. We're going to move on to Member Chavez.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for going through the details as to how we all work together on this to get this done. I think what we're saying, what I'm hearing from a lot of my colleagues, is that the status quo is fine. We've got a good working process right now to maintain the status quo, but I always like to say begin with the end in mind. So if we want to transition some of these areas to more pollinator friendly, more native friendly, how do we look at that? So could we look at putting a plan together maybe over the next 5 years where we start to eliminate some of these turf areas? I know in some cases, like whatever was mentioned in District 6, we've learned probably from that whatever happened there, didn't work. So let's not replicate that. But there's, to Member Rutledge's point, there's got to be some areas where beyond the 15 feet that hits the roadside, we have another grouping that maybe can go back to higher, you know, growth levels. Could we start to put together a plan so that we take this from a $500,000 budget item down to a 400, 300, 200, and down to 100, so that we really are just looking at how do we make this a better, more native environment over time? It doesn't have to happen tomorrow, but is that something we could do?
I think so we approved the long range plan for the DOT, the 20-year outlook, and then we have the smaller element of that, the 5-year plan. So we do maintain a 5-year plan. So I think, to your point, that's where we start looking at when we do these improvements, what is the appropriate restoration of the parkway? How does it fit in with the community? How does it get toward our, you know, goal of maybe minimizing, reducing our carbon footprint? And it's also an equipment we purchase. You know, as we talked about, we did buy battery mowers. We hope to use them. We will be using them this year, and I know we've tested them. They were really competitive against a normal gasoline engine. So our hope is that, you know, there's a multiple ways to kind of approach this. It's not just with natives, it's how we do maintain it with the equipment we use. So it might be a kind of a two-pronged approach. But I think to that point, it gets at the project level. And I think that's where we'll start, where we will continue to look at it.
And the only thing I'd add to that is prioritize those projects where we do have that long commute to that 200, yards of turf or
Yeah,
something. And
yeah.
maybe we prioritize getting rid of some of those initially. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Chavez. And to round up our questions, we have Member Renahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to commend my fellow member Rutledge for your steadfast advocacy. Might not always agree, but thank you for always bringing it up every time. So with that, my question for you, Chris, is I'm guessing that there's also a cost if we do have native plantings. I mean, if we've got cattails or all kinds of native plantings, whatever. I mean, they need to be cut down in the fall. I mean, there's some cost to that as well.
There is a cost to establish them over a period of time and then maintain them for longevity. So yes.
Okay, I just think that on balance, that also needs.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it gets at what Member Garcia was saying about, to maintain it, you're putting people, I mean, we've got the example right up here in front, about what it takes to get it, established and sustainable, and the amount of personal effort and dedication by individuals to go out there and get rid of the non-good stuff and keep the good stuff. And so there is a commitment of cost and time to do that.
And I think also it should be pointed out, I mean, the issue of aesthetics. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about a native garden out in front of DuPage County campus here. Doesn't look that great, quite frankly. So I just want to point that out. Like sometimes our best intentions, do not, they maybe get derailed. And I was, my favorite way to take care of the green, some of the greenery, eliminate some of these surfaces is put in more sidewalks, because we need more sidewalks.
We'll work on that. So
Thank you, Thank you, Member Renahan. Okay, Member Eckhoff, and then we have to round it up because we have to get to our presentations, but go ahead, please.
I don't have a comment regarding the grass, but we keep on talking about electric vehicles, electric mowers and things like that. And I'm all in favor of electric vehicles since my wife and I have both driven a Prius since 2004. But do you have a report or something that you could send to me that shows that the carbon emissions from an electric mower or electric truck or electric car are actually less than the carbon emissions from a regular vehicle? So when people ask me about it, I can quantify it for them, because I'm sure the electricity coming out of a charging station isn't created by magic or lightning the night before. It's got to be created by burning coal or something.
Right. So you're talking, at the source, which is the vehicle, which is 100, I think it's like 100 to 0, right? Because there is no carbon emission, but it's the production. And I can see what we have on that, but I think that's a much broader discussion that involves not just equipment for DOT, but how we operate the campus and everything. And I'll yield to our facilities management.
Who's ever got it, we keep on assuming that the carbon emission is significantly different, and I'd like to see what it is.
Okay, thank you, Member Eckhoff. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay.
I can sit down.
The motion carries. Thank you. Member Pachowski. Yes, thanks, Chris.
Move to approve DTR 0171-22 and awarding resolution that ERA Valdivia contracted for the 2022 various bridge repair program for an estimated county cost of $1,459,743.32, which is a little bid.
I have a motion by Member Pachowski, a second by Member Desart. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member
Move to
Pachowski.
approve DTR 0172-22 and awarding resolution K5 Construction Corporation for the 2022 pavement maintenance south program for an estimated county cost of $4,697,308.59 per low bid.
Motion by Member Pachowski, second by Member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Pachowski.
And lastly, move to approve DTR 0173-22 and awarding resolution R. Dutton and Company for 22 pavement maintenance north program for county cost of $5,388,504 per low bid.
I have a motion by Member Pachowski, a second by Member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Member Pachowski.
Thank you.
We move on to finance resolutions. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on authorization for overnight travel for one supervisor assessments employee to attend the Illinois Property Assessment Institute.
A motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on another authorization for overnight travel authorization for one finance employee to attend the Government Finance Officers Association Annual Conference.
I have a motion by Member Member Krajewski, a second by Member Desart. And on any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
I move to combine items C, D, E, F, and G, all acceptance and appropriation resolutions.
I have a motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Renahan to combine items C, D, E, F, and G. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
I move for FIR 0177-22, resolution for acceptance and extension to the Technical Services Agreement contract with the RTA. I move on FIR 017822, resolution acceptance appropriation of DuPage Housing Authority Family Self-Sufficient Program. FIR 0181-22, resolution for acceptance and appropriation of DuPage Care Center Foundation and Foundation Coordinator Grant. FIR 0179-22, resolution acceptance and appropriation of DuPage Care Center Foundation Music Therapy Grant. And last, FIR 0180-22, resolution acceptance appropriation of DuPage Care Center Foundation Recreational Therapy Grant.
I have a motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Member Krajewski. We move on to informational items. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to receive and place on file informational items, payment of claims, wire transfers, appointments, and grant proposal notifications.
Okay, I have a motion to receive and place in file A, B, C, and D. I have a motion by Member Krajewski, second by Member Desart. Oh, Member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much, Member Krajewski. With that, we move on to discussion. Jeff, did you want to come up and we're gonna have our ARPA revenue replacement discussion and then our local ARPA program update. So welcome, Jeff and Mary Catherine.
Okay, good morning again. We just wanted to have an update this morning on ARPA, in particular, a couple of topics. Revenue replacement and our letters of interest from our park districts, fire districts, and townships. So I'll start out with revenue replacement. So when ARPA began a year ago and we received our first allotment of money, they determined a formula, they being the Treasury Department, a formula to capture revenue loss. And the formula was somewhat complex, difficult, and staff, along with our external auditors, Baker Tilly, did an analysis on revenue loss. And through that formula, we really couldn't determine any revenue loss. Obviously, with growth in revenue and grants that we received in the Department of Transportation, we really weren't eligible under that formula. In January, the Treasury Department updated their Treasury guidelines to come up with a standard allowance of $10 million. So the county can claim $10 million for revenue replacement to be used on governmental projects. I'll call it HVAC systems, building infrastructure, things like that. There's a couple of areas that we can't use the standard allowance for, contributions to pension funds and debt service, adding to our reserve accounts or any types of settlement agreements. That's, excuse me, that's not allowed. So the standard allowance of $10 million gives us a little bit more flexibility as far as governmental projects. But the reason why we're bringing this forward to the committee this morning is because our April 30th, 22 federal reporting guidelines to the Treasury is going to require us to claim either $0 or $10 million of revenue replacement. We've been notified by GFOA and NACO that we need to report this either way or the other. So the risk is if we don't report anything, we'll lose it. So we wanted to give the committee or the board an opportunity to discuss whether or not we want to claim that $10 million of revenue replacement. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Do we have any questions, Member Krajewski, Member Zay, and then Member Desart?
Thanks, Jeff. I mean, I would assume we have 10 million worth of projects this would qualify over the next 4 years.
I think we could find them. We have $30 million that's right now is unallocated.
Sure. Right. So, well, I meant we have $10 million of if we claim it as revenue, lost revenue, we have 10 million of projects that it's eligible for. You said like HVAC and
Oh, yeah.
over the next 4 years.
Right.
I mean, I would take the $10 million as revenue replacement, because then the money we're going to spend is free in reserves that we could then be flexible and do anything we want with that money in reserves. So we could do any program we wanted. So, I mean, it makes sense to just take the 10 million since we're going to be spending 10 million over the next 4 years anyways. And then we just have it in our reserves so we can do whatever we want. I'm for.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, Jeff, they're not giving us an additional 10 million, right?
No.
They're just taking that out of our 30 million reserves. So it's not, we're not going to lose it. It's still going to be there.
Right.
We're just going to claim it as lost revenue, even though we don't have lost revenue. And we have doubled our reserves since this time, but we still want to take it for 10 million for more projects around the county. My concern is this is money supposed to be helping the people, not doing more projects around the county. So why don't we keep the money, that 30 million in there, and use it for more community assistance and more economic stimulus for our businesses, instead of us taking it and finding more projects on top of more projects here at the county. I mean, I would rather we keep it at 30 million in reserves that we have. And we see right now, I mean, we did food drives this weekend. Northern Illinois Food Bank didn't participate because they didn't have food. Because, you know, we see what inflation going on, the price of food is going up. So why would we take 10 million for revenue replacement that we didn't lose and just put it into our coffers for future projects? Why don't we keep it in ARPA where it's supposed to be and make sure that the people who need it the most get it at that point? I mean, where we can look at the pie chart and it, you know, we can see campus COVID mitigation projects is the largest pie of the ARPA money right now. I mean, that's what concerns me. I mean, it sounds great to just put it in our coffers and do whatever, but again, as we continue to spend, let's make sure that money is going to the people who need it the most and not here for projects.
So staff isn't advocating, you know, utilizing or recapturing the $10 million. We're just putting it out there as a policy option. So when we report,
but we're not going to lose it.
No, we're not going to lose it.
Okay, so now everybody think if we don't do it, we're going to lose it. We're just not going to be able to put it into a separate fund.
Well, we have to report it. So if we ever come back in the 3 years, there's a possibility that we couldn't recapture it. That's why I brought it in front of the board this morning, is I don't want, you know, next year to say, well, we have revenue replacement and we can take that $10 million to do a project at the county. Well, no, we can't because we reported zero in April of 22. That's my only concern, is just giving the board that option, either claim it or not claim it.
Okay, I have Member Desart, Member Renahan, Member Ozog, and then Member Garcia. So Member Desart, go ahead.
You know, at this point, Member Zay, it's just getting scary how much you and I think alike. Ditto everything Member Zay just said. In my opinion, we have spent millions of ARPA funds already on campus projects. We've already done that. We only have, out of the, you know, almost $200 million in ARPA funds, we only have 30 million left. And again, and to echo what Member Zay said, that should go to helping our community, helping people, feeding people, housing people. And like I said, we've been very generous with campus projects already using ARPA funds. So just everything Member Zay said, I echo that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Desart. Member Renahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question is, the $10 million, is there any ability to look backwards? Because we did all this 45 million. Can we just say, hey, that's 10 million we don't have to report on, that's just easier for us? I mean, do we have any savings in terms of staff time or accountability? Can we look back and take say, yes, we're taking it and we're using it here instead of taking it out of the 30 million going forward?
No, there wouldn't
I
be
mean,
any.
that makes a
savings
lot
in
of
staff
sense,
time,
doesn't it?
unfortunately. I'm not sure I completely understand the question. You're saying,
Well, I mean, say, yes, we're taking 10 million that we're putting toward our campus COVID mitigation projects in terms of money that we haven't yet spent, but we have, you know, decided where it's going
right.
versus looking at the 30 million going forward.
Well, the $10 million would obviously give more flexibility for spending on county projects.
Yeah, I get that. What I'm saying is, I mean, it would be a much easier requirement, right? We don't really have to say it's going to this. It's not.
Oh, it would
all
be
the-
easier. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's just a matter of reporting it.
Like, it's like,
Right.
yes, we took it, but we took it for the 45 million that we've already
Right.
done versus the 30 million going forward, because I could not agree more. I mean, when I look at disproportionately impacted communities, I don't know that we've totally done what we need to do here. I think that $30 million is got to go somewhere else.
Sure.
Not just back to ourselves. So, well, I don't really have an answer to my question, if we can do that or not.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, I guess, just to clarify, right now we're seeing, if you're thinking about this is just like a budget exercise. This $10 million can be spent on almost anything. Like you're saying, staff time. It can be spent on things that you couldn't spend ARPA dollars on. So if we wanted to go back and say, instead of some of the projects that we already have budgeted, if we wanted to use this in place of those, yeah, that is possible. But in general, that would mean money would have to come off of some of those projects. Because this is really about the budget. Let's think about it more about the budget as opposed to the expenditures. So what we're going to do, if the board were to say, yeah, we do want to go forward with the revenue replacement, we would reserve 10 million out of what's been already allocated. But if it were the board's will, hey, we don't want to do X type of project, and instead we want to do the $10 million, you know, it's always possible for us to change the budget as it stands right now. So I'm not sure if does that answer your question?
Okay, it sounds like you're telling me it's not worth it to kind of start over, but to me, it makes perfect sense to take 10 million right off the top. We're already doing mitigation projects, say, hey, we did that as revenue replacement, and really 35 is really what we're accountable for to the federal government. That's all I'm saying. It seems there's a path there, but you're telling me it seems it's not worth it.
Yeah, there is a path there, but in general, you know, I would say one thing that when we were talking with some of our partners yesterday that they reminded us was that, you know, you can't go back and do this later, but if you were to just put aside the $10 million, you can always use that on anything that you want to use it for, which means you can always, it just gives you flexibility. So if you wanted to use it on community projects, you can. If you wanted to use it on something that you think is kind of COVID related, but maybe questionable, you can. So from that perspective, there may be not a huge downside with it, but you know, I think obviously for us as staff, we don't have an opinion. We just have to fill out the paperwork at the end of the month. So we're hoping to get some feedback from you as how to want to proceed with it.
Okay, thank you, Member Renhen. I have Member Ozog next.
Thank you. I think you just clarified what I was going to ask. It seems like it would be amiss to not take this designation. If we want to, the $10 million could go to an emergency situation within our budget, should something happen in the next 3 years. But it also seems that we could allocate that toward community, which I absolutely agree with. So it seems to me that this is really a way to designate this money to be not ARPA, completely ARPA qualifications dependent. So why not do it? It seems to be, and then we can still discuss more community versus campus county project type of spending. Is that?
Yeah, that's
the gist of
exactly it. It's
Okay.
flexibility.
Thank you.
Okay, hang on one second. I'm going to get to everybody who hasn't asked questions, and we'll go around for a second round. So Member Garcia.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Chaplin. Question regarding, I'm just trying to get some clarification here on it, and I'm understanding, I'm glad that Member Renahan and Member Ozog got clarification because that helped me a little bit. But like, for instance, I know that I personally want to be coming up and asking for 5 million for the critical intervention unit to be part of, to help people who have been dealing with mental illness and who have really been affected by COVID. That's something the health department is very strong on, and we're going to be coming forward with some kind of a plan for a building here on campus. So I think that's really going to help the public in a general area. Could that come from the $10 million?
It could, yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Garcia. Member Chavez?
Thank you, Chair Chaplin. I think for me, I'm a yes on this because I don't see the downside of us having this money set aside without the guardrails of ARPA. I think the nice thing about this is it puts more power into our local hands as governance of this area to say, if a critical need comes to the table that that we see for DuPage County that may or may not be technically ARPA eligible, if we deem it to be a priority, it's something that we have the funds to put our hands on. So I think we know the needs of DuPage County. To Member Zay's point, it could be that we decide several $1 million needs to go to food because all of a sudden we're in a major food crisis, or it could be that we need money to go to housing because we, in a year we have an unforeseen housing crisis. So for me, I don't see the downside of setting this money aside.
Thank you, Member Chavez. I have Member Tornatori, and then Member Dishart, and then Member Renahan. Member Tornatori, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree that we should do what we can for our communities, and I'm also concerned about the fact that, as Jeff said, we don't want to potentially lose this money, which leads me to two questions. Is it likely if we don't allocate this money to us that we wouldn't be able to give this to the communities and in effect lose it? And then the second question is, if we do take it, apparently it doesn't mean that we can't use it for, from what you've just said, we can't use it for community services.
We can, right.
We can't, but
right.
we can use it for community.
Sure. You just have more flexibility.
So to Member Zay's point, taking this money doesn't negate our opportunities to give it back to our constituents in any way. And taking it removes any possibility that we could lose it because now we have it. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, I guess that makes sense to me then. My answer is
Thank you, Member Tornatori. Okay, I have Member Dishart and then Member Renahan. Member Dishart?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a request. Jeff, could I please, maybe you've already done something like this, but I just would like some historical perspective. Like the pie charts are especially helpful to see where all the money went for the CARES Act money. Do we have something like this for CARES Act? Could you email that to me, please? Thank you so much. That's it.
Everybody,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, if you could send that to everybody, that would be great. Thank you. And then Member Renahan.
I don't have any doubt that we can spend this 30 million out and hit all the requirements. You guys have done a fabulous job through CARES, through ARPA. I guess what concerns me is we didn't have a revenue loss.
Right.
But we're signing on to say that we did.
Well, we're following the Treasury guidelines, which is taking a standard allowance, claiming a standard allowance, I should say. And
But
with
we
that,
can likely spend out that $30 million. We've done a great job. We haven't left any money on the table all along the way. We know that we have needs coming up. I mean, the thing that Member Garcia had mentioned, I would think that this could qualify as a project, as a COVID related project, regardless of whether we took this revenue loss or not.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So again, we just have to report by April 30th, whether we're taking or not. That's why I need to get the feedback from the board. Again, in a year, I don't want somebody to come back and say, we never claimed our $10 million for revenue because staff did that internally without notifying the committee or board.
Member Zay? Thank you,
Thank you,
Member
Madam Chair.
Renahan. Yeah.
Again, we don't have revenue loss. How much is our sales? How much is our sales tax up?
We are this fiscal year, I think we're $9 million over budget. Again.
We didn't have a revenue loss. We've doubled our reserves. Our sales tax is up. We want to make it more flexible. You know what this sounds like to me? It sounds exactly like Springfield to me, because if you went around and polled everybody around here, we put $10 million more flexibility. I bet every board member can come up with a project here that they'd like to get through and be done. If you keep it in ARPA money, it keeps our hands tied and has to go with those restraints on it. I mean, Sheila would love to have, I'm sure, electric vehicles and everything else. I mean, I love to put, I'd love to, do a bunch of projects, but again, it's for revenue loss. We didn't have revenue loss. We've doubled our reserves. Our sales tax is up, but we're going to go ahead and claim a standard claim, which I love that. If the accountants must love the standard claim, even though you don't have it, and just keep your fingers crossed you don't get audited. I mean, it just doesn't seem right at that point. I mean, we're taking a standard revenue loss for more flexibility, but we didn't have a revenue loss. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's
True.
I mean,
I can't argue that.
right, but we're not going to lose that money. That just
Right.
takes on that gray remaining contingency reserves takes it to 20 million, and that 10 million goes into a more flexible spending account.
Exactly.
That, you know what, I mean, every husband and wife would love to have a flexible spending account on the side and just not worry about it. But again, if we keep it on ARPA, we don't take that claim, it keeps our hands tied, it keeps us more honest on what we have to spend the money.
Thank you, Member Zay. Member Desart, Member Krajewski, and then we're going to wrap this up.
All right, thank you. I just had one comment. You're trying to get the pulse of the board on what to do. This is for revenue loss. We didn't have revenue loss. The bottom line is that we took this as revenue loss. It would be unethical at best and a lie at worst. So I'm a firm no.
Member Krajewski, Member Tornatori. Okay, Member Krajewski, Member Tornatori.
Can we get off of the revenue loss? It's a standard deduction, just like you would get if you did it on your tax return. If you take a standard deduction on your tax return, you don't have to allocate your mortgage expense, your taxes and all the rest. That's all this is. So let's get off the revenue loss. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's not unconscionable, or it's not, it's fine. It's what we're allowed to do.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that there's no audit risk with this. What the feds originally did was put together something that was so complicated, that was entity-wide, that no one could figure it out, right? And so when they came back, that was with the interim rule. When they came back with the final rule, they just said, hey, everybody is going to qualify for the 10, because we're not going to go through and look at 1,000 financials for thousands of entities. So they simplified it. They understood that when they put it out there, and it's allowed. It's part of the rule. So no, there's not any audit risk. We have this option, as does every place across the country, to do what I think is, aptly termed the standard deduction, if we choose to do it. But like Jeff was saying, this is really a decision for you guys. While there's flexibility, we understand it is a budget issue. So, how do you want to budget for what we have left? And
Can I just follow up? I mean, maybe that's why we're confused, because I look at A up there, standard allowance of $10 million for revenue loss. I mean, that's what it says. Maybe that's why we're confused. I mean, it says it right there on your presentation.
It also says spend on government services.
Yeah.
That's the language of the Treasury guidelines, unfortunately.
So is it not a revenue loss?
Correct. You
Then
do
why
not.
did you say it's a revenue loss?
That's the categories that are defined in the federal guidance, where they address this issue. But yes.
Oh, Member Ozag, and then Member Krajewski. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Member Ozag, then Member Krajewski.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Just to summarize all of this here, it's giving us more flexibility.
Yes.
And none of us have a crystal ball. And frankly, I'd like to see any one of these 18 board members get a $10 million project through this board on their own for a specific pet project. I think that's really not a concern. So it gives us more flexibility, and I will be in favor of it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Ozag. Member Krajewski.
Speaking of 10 million, I mean, we gave 10 million to the DuPage Foundation. We had to give an extra $600,000 to administer it and all the compliance to make sure it met the ARPA guidelines, et cetera. We can set our own policy for however we want to administer something that's not going to tie us into whether it's ARPA qualified or not. what the reporting requirements are. We as a board can take 10 million out of our reserves and do whatever we want with it and set our own policy on what you got to comply. It's a 2-page card that a food pantry sends into us with one number. Give me 100,000. We can say that's what we want to do. And again, to what Member Renahan just said, it's 10 of us need to vote on any special projects somebody comes forward with in our budget to approve it. So it just gives us flexibility that we're not tied into ARPA guidelines. We're not tied into compliance. We can set whatever program we want because we've already spent that 10 million in staff time, or we're going to be spending it over the next 4 years in our budget. So we'll have extra 10 million in our reserves that we don't have to put into those programs that the revenue we replace. And we can do whatever we want with it. We have to have 10 members agree on it. We can set the rules. We can go into the community and do some projects in the communities that for disadvantaged people that maybe don't meet ARPA, but they meet what we decide to put forward. I mean, it seems to me gives us much more flexibility.
Any other question? Member Renahan.
And I guess I feel like Member Zay a bit in terms of, I'm reading this and at A1, it says counties may allocate 10 million of their total recovery fund to spend on general government services. That to me doesn't say giving money to the Northern Illinois Food Bank or, reaching out to constituents or helping people disproportionately impacted. I kind of like leaving on some requirements so that we don't just piddle away $10 million because it's not going to be passing a $10 million project. It's going to be lots of little projects. So I just have concerns.
Any other questions from the committee members? Okay, so just for clarification, the $10 million we can keep as is right now, or we can move it over to this special revenue fund, correct? We're not going to lose, we're not going to lose $10 million whether we sign or whether we don't sign, correct?
If the board, that you're correct, and if the board wants to do the standard allowance, we would come back with a resolution in 2 weeks to capture that.
So the standard allowance gives us more flexibility. Keeping it where it is holds us to those ARPA guidelines.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess let me just miss real quick. So I guess it just depends how this board wants to proceed. If you want it like staff said, have more flexibility, which can be used for, as Member Run had pointed out, it looks pretty, it says general government services, and you may not be able to use it for special community. We would have to check that, but I guess it would be up to the committee for the board. Could.
In our normal budget, he's already said it, in our normal budget, we're already spending 10 million of these qualified funds. So we just wouldn't budget that 10 million over the next 4 years. It would just be sitting in our reserves and we can do anything we want with what's in reserve. So if we weren't spending 10 million over the next whatever, it wouldn't matter. But
we can't put this in our reserves.
No, we're going to be spending over $10 million out of our normal budget for what this can replace. So therefore we won't have to budget that money. So it'll be sitting in our reserves and we can do whatever we want with what's in our reserves. So we're just taking this money and going to be using it for what we've already going to be budgeting for over the next few years from our sales tax. Is that correct, Jeff?
That would be an option, yes.
Yeah, and then it sits in reserves and we can do whatever we want with what's in our reserves.
Right.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Tornatori.
I think this is same pants, different pockets. Okay, it's Jeff, let me ask you a real straightforward question. If we take this money, the standard allowance, is that going to limit us using that $10 million for community services, food pantries, any of the other things that we all want to see given to our community?
Food pantries is a governmental service.
Okay, so it doesn't matter really whether we take this 10 million and give it to 10 food pantries or whether we take the standard allowance, and we can still do that later on, can we not?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Tornatori. Okay, any other questions or discussion? Okay, so can I get a consensus from the board and how we want to move forward with this? Do we want to take the standard allowance? Let me see a show of hands.
Can I make?
looks like the majority of the board wants to go ahead and take that standard allowance. Okay, so I think that's, well, the board, if you would like to prepare a resolution and bring it forward at our next meeting.
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, and with that, thank you very much for that presentation. And thank you all for your questions. It was really good discussion. If we can move on to our local ARPA program update. Go ahead,
Yes, so
Jeff.
great discussion on taxes and standard allowance. 'Tis the season. Our taxes are due next week. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Catherine.
Hi, I heard earlier that there are a few students here, and so maybe this was, before I start, I just want to recap and let you know exactly what we're talking about here. Last year, the federal government provided under the American Rescue Plan, provided the county with $179 million to be spent over 5 years for both the county's immediate response to the COVID-19 pandemic and to its long-term recovery. So it's very different than some of the money that we got in the prior year during the pandemic. But what we were debating just now and what I'm going to do a presentation on right now is that money. We call it ARPA. And out of the total $179 million, we allotted some money for local government entities. And today's presentation is sort of the update on what's gone to those local government entities. If I can see the first slide. I wanted to be clear that today I'm just going to talk about the fire districts and the park districts. Some of you might remember from, I think, Member Chaplin's comments at an earlier meeting, the townships opted to go on an extended timeline. So today we're just going to focus on the park and fire districts. They're in the same timeline, and they're sort of in the same place in the process. First step, we've made a lot of progress to date. The first step was the webinars. We did those on February 16th. Then the letters of intent came back to the county for county staff review. The letters of intent basically just put together whether or not the park and fire districts had eligible projects. So what we were looking for between the 15th and the 25th of March was, hey, are these eligible projects? So on Friday, March 25th, we sent out letters, emails to all of the applicants based on their letters of intent, letting them know if their projects were eligible or not. And then on the following Monday, we opened up the portal, and all that went relatively smoothly. If I can see the next slide. This is kind of the universe of what is being requested. And for the board members, these things are going to look very similar to what we did under CARES Act and pretty similar to what we were doing here on the county campus. These are the things that are in compliance with the act. And I might say one or two things about the applications. This is meant to be a brief presentation, so I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but one thing that I was really struck with when I was going through them that was a little bit different was the park districts. A lot of the park districts did a lot of work with vaccines out there in the community, and I was really impressed with that. And that's a big part. You can see when you see the breakdown by the dollars, that's both in their payroll money and some of their project money. So they were really out there. And also the park districts have done and plan to do some good COVID related projects. So I'm excited about this pool of applicants that we got. Next slide. These slides are a little bit updated from the prior versions that you might have received. So one of the things that I put in the slide, perhaps not super visible to those in the audience, but on the lower left side, there's a little box that shows really 4 numbers. And again, for those that aren't part of what we call inside baseball here, there's $1 million is what the county board originally approved for the park districts. We got back in terms of the letter of intent or LOI applications, we got $2.1 million of requested that were totally requested. Of that, we had, a similar amount was approved as eligible. There was a small $56,000 request. It's actually 2 pieces. There was, we got a request in terms of what was determined ineligible. I thought I might just explain what those 2 projects were. One was $6,000 for operating costs at someone's water plant. And the other was $50,000 for parks improvements that were very general and had nothing to do with COVID. So those were rejected, but most of the rest we thought were eligible. You can see from the pie chart, there's a fairly big amount on the capital side, but I did want to mention that it's not evenly distributed. So there are two capital projects that are large, one for $200,000 and one for $346,000. So they're definitely skewed by outliers, two big projects. And we saw that also on the fire district side of things. These numbers are preliminary and they're definitely going to change, especially as we go through the process. But one thing that I wanted to mention in terms of the eligibility numbers, why we think they're inflated right now, is really two reasons. One, the projects. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. This is a good slide. Yeah, let's wrap it up. Takeaway from this slide is we had a lot more than double the request than what we allocated. So yeah. Next slide. Next slide is a similar story. Oh, wait, come back. Yeah, fire districts. Again, we had a lot more requested than was eligible. I do want to say one thing that we're looking at. I do want to go back to my 2 points, even though I got 2 minutes. One thing is that a lot of the big capital projects are definitely going to include costs right now that we're not going to deem eligible as we go through the portal process. So a lot of those for, totally redoing the fire district, no, we're going to shave those costs down to the costs that are actually part of the project that are COVID related. And the second is we had a number of projects, both on the fire districts and the park districts, where the entities that apply weren't really in DuPage County. They only had small shares that were in DuPage County. So they're like on this slide, I have about $136,000. We plan to prorate where, for example, St. Charles is 99% outside of DuPage County. And in this case, for that 1%, yeah, we'll fund 1% of that project, but these costs are going to come down related to that. So yeah, we have a lot of requests. We have more than what we allocated. And we're getting ready for the next step. I guess the last slide is really just a recap on this. I don't know if there are any questions real fast.
I think we have to, yeah, I'm sorry, guys, we can't take questions right now. We can continue this to the next meeting. Okay. The next finance meeting. I'm sorry, because we have our photo that we have to take. So I'm so sorry.
Plus the good thing is we have 10 million of extra money that we can just
So we'll have this exact same presentation on the next one, and we can open up discussion at the next finance meeting.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. So thank you, Mary Catherine. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks everyone for a great thing. Do we have any old business? Okay, any new business? Can I have a motion to adjourn? I have a motion by Member Garcia, second